Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stefan Spencer, and today it is my distinct pleasure to have Mas Sajadi with us. Mas is known as a teacher's teacher, a mentor's mentor, a leader's leader, and advisor to the 1%. Through two near death experiences, Mas has mastered highly advanced knowledge and abilities that he's become the leading authority in utilizing the power of frequencies to optimize human potential. He's the founder of Exponential Intelligence, or XI. Mas has an XI podcast with 2 million downloads and 100,000 successful client sessions in the last 10 years. He's traveled around the world and reached over a million people with seemingly miraculous life transformations. Mas's hyper meditation program has proven to help change one's life in as little as 18 days instead of decades. Mas, it's so great to have you on the show.
Stefan, thank you for having me. It's going to be, I think it's going to be exciting.
I'm sure it's going to be amazing and enlightening
Yeah.
and inspiring. So let's
Yes.
first of all start with your origin story because I know there were two near-death experiences that you went
Yes.
through that were quite
Mhm.
life-altering and defining for you,
Yes.
and I'm sure that wasn't the only thing that shaped your life. I'm curious to hear your origin story, and I'd love our listener to hear that as well.
Sure. Absolutely. A lot of people have, and you're absolutely right, Stefan. A lot of people have, tragic experiences and so on. There's a ton of, say, near death experiences happening daily. But, why don't we get to, say, the abilities that I have? By the way, we all have these. And that's what I do nowadays is hone people's abilities without having that near death experience. So, which is really exciting for a lot of people because how many people want to really have that near death experience to like awaken or alive? And so you don't. And that's what Exponential Intelligence is about. I said that because I think throughout my whole life I was always searching. So before my first near-death experience, I was always searching. I was always that kid in the corner, as a young kid, in my early teens and so on, and just observing, why people do what they do. Parents, teachers, TV, even my own friends. It's like, why do they do what they do? So again, always understanding, and then always trying to figure out is like, well, isn't there a better version? Why are they doing that? Why are they ill? Why are they so? Even at a younger age, my first near death experience gave me a lot of those answers. Kind of like Einstein when he goes, I want to figure out, say, that one equation that equals, the possibilities of life. And that's what that near death experience allowed me to do. It was, I'm not going to get into all the details. You can find that on my website, mossajadi.com. But, um, but just some of the highlights. It was a warehouse accident. My jaws got crushed in a rail car accident. I was up on the rafters of the rail car trying to get some product out of place, and then somehow my jaws got smashed between these huge doors in the rail car, and I was just seeing myself dangling, literally dangling there, and that was the key. I was observing myself dangling, and I was asking myself, it's like, what the hell am I doing here if my body's over there? So it was just a complete disconnect. And then it was like the lights turned on. It's like, oh my God. And it was such a euphoric feeling. It was no experience of, sadness or I died or anything like that. But it's like, wow, I'm dead. And again, it's a euphoric feeling when you're awakened because, as you say, transition from the physical boundaries of who you are into, say, the timeless boundaries of who you are. So you have a time bound self, again, the 1%, as I call it, of all your experiences here. And then the 99%, your timeless or your limitless self. I had transitioned from my time bound self into my timeless self. And I'm going, wow, this is how it is. This is what it feels like to be alive, to have potential, to have that, say, that inner knowing. Yoda, from Star Wars, he would call it, the power. What is it? The power within, or the force within. There's the power within, that bigger, grander version of who you are. I experienced that, and it was amazing. And you go through that transition of, seeing your friends, a life review, and all that. I didn't see the friends aspect. Some other people do who go through a near death, but I transitioned into a life review, and this is where all the things that you thought you did wrong, and all the things that you should have, you could have. Why is God this way? Why did that happen to me? All those scenarios I really understood it at a deeper level. It's like, oh, that's why it happened. And so it's a life relived, literally. So you can graduate to the higher level, and then somehow I got pushed back into my body, and that's where the pain of a cracked jaw and all that started to take effect. But even then, Stefan, it was a euphoric experience, but that allowed me to see that expansive state. So
Mm-hmm.
after that near death experience, it showed me, or I was craving, is like, how do I get back to that expansive state that we all have within? How do I inside it? How do I turn it on? So it took me 20 years, and then the second near death, which happened in my late 40s. It was a drowning accident, and this is where I learned, say, the mechanics of how to expand from my 1% into using more of our potential, the 99%. So it's an inner expansion that I use. And that inner expansion, again, you start to claim the power that you are. And this is where abundance comes through all levels. I call it spherical abundance, aging or becoming ageless. I'm turning 61 in a couple days, actually. And people go, I look younger and younger and younger. How could that be? What happens to a lot of people who practice XI? They don't have to age like their parents. They don't have to get ill like their parents. They don't have to go through the paradigms of society. So this is where we start to find our internal power of who we are. So that second near death, again, gave me the mechanics on how to rewire, I would say, or change the channel for you on your life. And that's really the key, guys. I don't heal things. I don't help you heal things. I don't do any of that. I literally go, hey, there's another paradigm of you or another simulation of you that's a lot better off. Let's switch you over to that channel, which is very different than how most people, see healing or nurturing or, leadership or success.
Mm. That reminds me of learning from Donnie Epstein. He's the founder of Network
Mhm.
Chiropractic, also known as Network Spinal Analysis. And he would
Yep.
speak about exchanging versions. He's
Yep.
become a good friend. He's a
Mhm.
past guest on this podcast. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with him? Yeah. Awesome.
Actually, yeah, he's part of the Tony Robbins group, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken, right? Yeah, yeah,
That's right.
but yeah, super
Yep.
nice guy. Haven't had a chance to meet him though. So
Okay. Yeah. So exchanging
mhm.
versions, I'd love to talk a bit more about that.
Yes.
Uh, my understanding of how this works is we're in the multiverse, and
Mhm.
the slice of the multiverse, the shard of the multiverse that is ours, like mine
Right.
individually as the observer, I
Mhm.
have a lot of influence over. I'm a co-creator of not just my own reality locally in
Right.
my house, my neighborhood, my family, but globally. Like whether
Right.
World War III happens or not is actually up to me and my
Mhm.
positive expectancy or my doom and gloom kind of doom scrolling and expecting the worst outcome sort of situation, kind of mindset
Right.
actually influences what happens on a global scale. That's my
Yes.
understanding of it. And every person has their own shard of the multiverse where they
Mhm.
have that level of influence. And
Right.
we have an infinite number of these universes happening simultaneously in the
Mhm.
multiverse. And also, I just learned this recently too. There's
Mhm.
a concept, concept or construct, I guess, of time is really an illusion that everything is in the eternal now on the other side of the veil, and our understanding of past lives or things that have
Mhm.
happened in the past, that's all happening simultaneously, as are our future lives happening simultaneously, kind of like
Mhm.
stacked on top of each other. So I'm curious to hear
Yeah.
what your take is on all this, and am I accurate or inaccurate with what
Um,
I just described?
well, it's somewhat accurate from what I'm seeing. And again, this is my version of it, or the XI version. And the way I see the accuracy is it like, is it going to get me results, bottom line results here? Because we could have a lot of theories, but is it going to get you the results or life results that we want? So there's a couple things that you went through. So are all things happening at once? Yes, and then no. Can all things happen to you at once? Again, it could, but the key is that let's put it in a really one way. So you have a playhead. Does that make sense? That head
Mm-hmm.
is like on a video monitor, or back in the day, audio recording. They had a playhead. What
Right.
happens at that head is what you're listening to. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Or a
Or
turntable.
what that
Yep.
per or a turntable. Yeah, exactly. Right. Wherever the needle is, on that groove, that's what's playing, right? So I call
Right.
that the zero state reality. Okay, and we're diving in deep, so that which is really
I'm
awesome.
ready.
So yeah, it's a really cool reality consciousness. So it's a zero state reality, and this is what's happening here in this reality. Are there possibilities of things happening out there? Yes, there are, but it depends on, say, the consciousness that you're existing in, and then the time frame that you create yourself in. Okay, so I'll clarify that. The other aspect is like, can you be all things at one time, or again, can all things happen to you at one time? Well, it's pretty hard, because you've already been born, so that trajectory or that possibility is gone for you. It was available for you back in the day, but as you traverse through time, or the possibilities or the simulations of who you are, old possibilities release as new ones form through. So in that sense, can you go back to a time? You could, but mostly in memory, or say genetic makeup, so to speak. And what that is the difference is memory. You're just like recalling what happened to you in the past. Genetic makeup, as I help people, and this is how I help people, age younger, age younger and get healthier, or recover from, say, an illness or a severe disease that they had, is literally
Mhm.
reverse back time. So
But can you, like, related to that, can you actually pray for your ancestors that they have had a better life and it actually affects them? Like the life that
um,
they had, so it becomes more positive because of your
okay,
prayers?
yes, you can. But to go a little deeper on that thought,
Hmm.
you are a rendering, or you are the latest version of your ancestors.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? So if you heal yourself, you're healing your ancestors. So
Right.
this is the difference between psychological healing, or emotional healing, or becoming successful at your, say, internal self, or at a physical level. What we do at XI, and this is how you heal the world, is that as you transform and as you render or heal yourself, okay, at a very deep level, I would say at a cellular level, it's literally, there's a lot of physicists that have studied my abilities. They're starting to see that I actually, like, the frequencies that I generate, actually say edit and transform DNA into a higher version of itself. Okay, which is
Hmm.
really, really cool, by the way, and not by just a little, by a lot. So when you
Hmm.
start to, say, change your genetic makeup, okay, other things around you, including nature, pick up on that, because, and this is where you're going, well, I'm the cause, or I'm partly the cause of World War III if it happens. You are, but the reason why is, well, like, we're all, our DNA is always sending out or pinging out information, and then receiving information, always, say, trying to figure out what's the best stable reality for me to create within me. Does that make sense to you? So we're
Hmm.
always learning from other people. If you just process that as I go on. So if you're always learning from other people, and then you start to change yourself out of genetic makeup, you're not a rendering of or you're not a, say, genetic mutation, basically, or of your, say, forefathers, your parents, grandparents, and so on, like that. You've decided to learn from those things, but then remove the things that have been distorted, because that's what you're sending out into the world. Does that make sense? So there's
Hmm.
packets of information that you're always sending out. And it's not just your conscious thought, obviously. It's how you create yourself, how you think about yourself. If you want to call it your self-image, but it goes much deeper, but just, for the sake of time, it's literally your self-image that you're sending out. This is this
Yeah.
is this is an example of, no matter what you do, you'll get into a relationship, say, that abuses you, if that's the pattern that you're running, right? No matter how good you look, no matter how good of a conversationalist you are, or humor, or
Mm.
whatever, you try different people. What do? Naturally attract the same type of person that will, say, abuse you at the end. That makes sense to you? So there's
Yes.
deeper functionalities or deeper frequencies that you're sending out that goes, hey, I am rendering this reality this way. Somebody else and throughout the world, that the neural network, so to speak, or just like the way the internet works, we're all picking up on that. It's like, oh, Stephen's rendering himself this way. What can we learn from this? Yes, so there's that wave. But as you change and as you release the old versions of yourself, literally release the old versions of your identity or accumulation of past memories from, say, ancestors, your
Mm.
parents, and so on, you become a newer, higher version of who you are. And that has a more powerful frequency than most people around you. And then
Mm-hmm.
and the proof of this is like when people transform, with XI, doing the 18-day hyper meditations and so on, is that they start to change without doing anything else. Their kids start to change. Their spouse starts to change. Sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, because sometimes that spouse doesn't want to change. So they try to control you, back into your old state. So the world starts to change. The person serving you coffee goes, whoa, what happened there? So they start to change. And that's what we're really here for. But in most cases, like you were talking about, World War III and recreating itself, basically we recreate from the past. That's what humans do. So humans don't evolve. We just are flatlining, basically. And then we just render the past because that's what survived, by the way.
Mm.
So we
Yeah,
just
it was
create the past over
flatlining.
and
That
over.
reminds me of a Kabbalistic concept
Hmm.
that it's like robotic consciousness or being on
Yes.
autopilot. And,
Yep.
and in that way, everything is already written. You're basically playing out a role that's already, the script for that movie has already been
Yep.
written. You
Yep.
stub your toe, you're late for work,
Hmm.
get sideswiped on the freeway or whatever. These things are already written. But my understanding is that you get a new timeline if you are
Yes.
especially benevolent, for example, or you're especially
Yes.
malevolent and you drop to a lower timeline, or
Hmm.
a script essentially that has a lot more painful lessons. Probably, if you're being
Yes.
malevolent and benevolent, you get lots more synchronicities.
Absolutely. So, like you said, robotic states. But what you're doing is like you're repeating, concepts of the past, dependent on, say, your parents. Say, for example, your hand gestures. As you awaken, you go, "Gosh, that's just like my dad." you know, if that makes sense to you. So it's like you start to notice how robotic your life really is. It's not really your life. And a lot of times it's like, gosh, a lot of people go, God, this isn't my life. I'm trying to change my life. So they change, they change location, they change jobs, they change spouses, whatever it is. And it's like, why is my life turns out to be the same? This is the reason why, because
Yeah.
you are a robotic state. What we do here at XI is like literally start to wake you up and you go, wait a second, this is this is my dad's patterns. Heart issues would be my dad's patterns or mom's patterns. It's like I don't need that. We just don't need that anymore going forward. And this is where literally, and I don't claim to cure anybody, but people age very, very differently. They don't have to age. Their body structure, Stephen, actually changes to a younger state.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, their physical body structure changes where they don't age, where their hips get wider, or they age, just like a normal, like 60, 70, 80-year old. They can reverse that. The cool thing
Right.
about it is, and this is goes back to what you're talking about, that wave that you're always sending out, that everybody is connecting to, that wave that you're sending out, you know your kids start to pick up that wave, and they don't pick up the hereditary patterns either.
Right.
And again, it's amazing
And your
what
kids
happens.
could be
Uh,
half a world away. They could be grown up, and
Absolutely.
you changing yourself uh, changes the field. And that
Right.
field is non-local. It can spread across time and space, right?
Yes, it kind of reminds me of the 100th monkey experiment. Where on one island this monkey figures out how to use a tool, right? And then on another island, within seconds, that same another tribe, that monkey figures out how to use the tool. It's like, what happened? How did that work? Well, that monkey say open that door, it send out that vibe, and that's what humans do as well. In human form, when somebody invents something, most likely that access of opening that door, however it opened, there's another adventurer across the world that invented or got that, say, aha moment pretty much at the same time. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of coincidence there. So that happens more often than you think. It's not just about inventions or anything. It's just like when we figure out how to, say, raise consciousness or elevate us to a higher frequency, it sends out this flow and everybody picks up on it. And nowadays, there's so many people practicing XI that is really, say, shifting a lot of people around us, whether they practice, say, benevolence or consciousness or anything like that. They get forced to, say, transform, which is really exciting, and that's how we really transform the world.
Right. And it's not only that people are picking up on it, but
Mhm.
the I don't know, the universe responds. It's not just
Yes.
people. It's like, yeah, that 100th monkey or that 100th person will pick up
Hmm.
on your new tool or whatever without you having an
Yeah.
interaction with them. But synchronicities, chance occurrences that aren't by chance, that seem implausible. Like, for example, just a
Hmm.
few weeks ago, my wife and baby, well, toddler, and we were in
Hmm.
Sedona, and prior to that, we were in Phoenix. We were there for a conference,
Hmm.
Genius Network annual event, where I was
Hmm.
speaking. Well, before we arrived, as soon as we were at the airport and at the rental car place, we ran into friends who live in
Hmm.
Toronto, and those friends were there for the
Yeah.
conference too. But the likelihood of running into them at the car rental place was pretty low. Oh, and the way it
Yeah.
happened was
Absolutely.
we picked up the car, and then after I pulled out, I
Hmm.
noticed that the check oil light was on. And so that
Hmm.
meant we had to go all the way back
All the way
around
back.
and recheck,
Got it.
do a whole complicated swap and everything. I'm like, okay, there's a
Right.
reason for this. And turns out we
Yes.
bumped into these friends that we wouldn't have seen until the event. But
Oh wow,
this
so
is where it
cool.
gets really weird and fun.
Hmm.
So we didn't have time to meet up for dinner or a meal like we were planning,
Hmm.
and the event finished. So then we left for Sedona, and
Hmm.
turns out they left for Sedona too, and we
Oh
ran
wow.
into each other on a rock in in a vortex in Sedona. And so
Wow.
we decided, okay, well, let's have lunch, and we had a really powerful conversation, and that wouldn't have happened if we had, I can't say that it wouldn't happen. I'd say it was much more likely that this kind of very improbable chance repeat
Hmm.
occurrence, it probably would have been less likely if I had not been as benevolent or as
Yes.
mindful
In
or
tune.
as in tune. Yeah, that's another way to put it.
Yeah,
That's really it.
absolutely. Yeah, so those are the programmings that we have. And there's, as you awaken, you start to connect with people, and that's what I see is that you had to connect with that individual to again help each other go to a higher level of understanding or consciousness. So
Yeah.
no matter what you do, you would have to connect, even if you go, I can't meet that person, whatever, it's not enough time, you'll have to reconnect at some level till you have that discussion or that powerful experience that you all had. Does that make sense to
Right.
you?
Yeah,
Um,
totally. In fact, it
um,
seems similar to, like, I'll have a thought to contact somebody that I haven't been in touch with for maybe years,
yes.
and
Yep.
it won't be a good moment for me to write it down or whatever, to act on it immediately. And then I
Hmm.
forget about it, but then pops right back maybe a day later or something. And so then I know, okay, this is not random. This is a
Right.
nudge. Yeah.
So let me ask you, Stephen. You've got a lot of background knowledge. You've studied a lot of modalities from what I'm seeing. So do you think
Mhm.
it's a process of you creating that moment, or do you think or do you think it's something else? Like I would see it as future vision, because no offense,
Mm.
I can analyze anybody's program,
Mhm.
and really that's what I do best. Is like, hey Moss, what's wrong with my life? Literally people go, hey, what's wrong with my life? And I go, oh, at 17 X happened, let's help you release that, let's go back in time and release that. So I can
Mm.
see the patterns. So for you, is it more future vision, or do you create that moment in time? There's a huge difference, by the way, and we teach
Mm.
people that difference.
I believe I can do both. That I co-create my reality. That I can co-create
Hmm.
synchronicities and miracles. That I
Hmm.
can deliver miracles on behalf of the
Yes.
Creator. I also believe that I can see into the future, but I think that's a trap though with seeing into the future, because if you get too wrapped up in that,
Hmm.
you don't live in the present moment.
Absolutely true. That is true. Yeah, just a couple scenarios, if you don't mind.
Please.
Yes, you are co-creator, but are you creating at a very deep level, say the 99% that I talked about, or at the 1%? So as you awaken, I mean, we all are creating, our future event, but most of us don't have access or control or say focus on which way we want to go. Those are dictated by your genetic makeup programming. It's not just your hair color, eye color, and so on that have inherited from your parents and their parents and so on. It literally is the way you look at things, your concepts. You might go, well, I'm very, very different, but if you notice that your end result of your life is very similar to that, because you didn't quite awaken, so your genetic makeup or your spiritual DNA basically, is like controlling or creating ahead of you the way it should. As you awaken, and this is my point, Stephen, is as you awaken, you start to know what's going on ahead of time while you're in the present moment, which is really exciting. And then you start to co-create on your own, and this is where new moments of time literally get created into consciousness, where you will see things from a very, very different perspective, rather than say the eyes of your predecessors. Does that make sense?
Mm.
So you can start to
It,
create and see future vision at the same time. Most people,
yeah,
though,
it's like
they can't say
awareness of your
render.
awareness.
Yes. And when you I love the way you said that. Awareness of your awareness gives you the power to say materialize or manifest. Back in the day, they would call it, God, what do they call it? Not
Law of
metallurgy,
attraction.
but the law of
Oh,
attraction,
alchemy.
but alchemy. That's what it was.
Yeah.
That when you become aware of your awareness and then stay at that higher level, because a lot of times when people become aware of their awareness, they snap back into it. It's like shit, they lost it. But
Yeah.
alchemy is literally about being at a higher level and being aware while you're aware of your other essence of yourself. And this is where you can create cool things, or put things together to create, well,
Mm.
alchemy, which is really cool.
Yeah. Have you read the book The
Uh,
Alchemist by Paulo Coelho?
A long time ago, I kind of forgot about it, but yeah, a long
Okay.
time ago.
It's
It's
a
really
great
cool.
book. Yeah, I just
It
listened
is a
to
great
it
book.
just recently.
Oh,
It's
you did?
the
Makes me
audiobook.
want
Yeah.
to read it again.
Jeremy Irons was
So,
the narrator, the actor. Oh,
okay.
so good. So
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Seven. Yep.
Yeah. And another thing about alchemy, I just
Mhm.
learned, I was interviewing someone
Maybe
else the
that's
other
why I'm
day.
saying it. If you're reading it, maybe that's why I'm picking it up. So, okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anyway, go
so
ahead.
I just finished it, but the other
Okay.
thing that I just learned about, I haven't read it. It's a book by Carl Jung called Psychology
Hmm.
and Alchemy, and Terence McKenna
Uh,
was very inspired by that book. It
hmm.
sparked his interest in psychology at the age of
Okay.
14 by reading Psychology and Alchemy, and
Hmm.
Carl Jung is amazing, and
Yes.
he actually was the the person who coined the term synchronicity and did all this research on it and wrote a whole book on it. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I really like Carl Jung's work. Our work is very similar. It's like, bridging the gap between. I would see it from a different level, but it's parallel Carl's, where you're that, say, time bound being. You're bridging the gap or synchronizing with your timeless being. And the closer you are, or the integrated you are, that's where you become into, or you come into, say, singularity. And that
Mm,
when you're in that singularity moment, or singular, this is where great power, you can manifest pretty much anything, and you're not bound by the properties and the physics of time and space,
yeah.
because
So
you're
Dr.
hovering
Joe
above space.
Dispenza, he talks about
Mhm.
how you get into this zone of being nobody in no time
Mhm.
and no place
Yeah.
and no thing or nothing, right?
Right.
Nothing, nobody. And from
Right.
there, you can manifest pretty much anything. You're not sucked into like this roller coaster of emotions and I
Mhm.
want and I need and attachment and all that. You just simply are. And
Right.
uh, it's a lot easier to co create a very powerful reality, positive reality
Yes.
when you're in that place.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like Joe Dispenza's work. Actually, Joe Dispenza, in fact, people who go to Joe Dispenza doing, XI, they actually accelerate a lot faster. Joe Dispenza or Tony Robbins, or any of those great individuals, they have a lot of great content. The difference between XI and, people like that, again, modalities, they're all really fantastic, because they all allow us to expand, is that we get down into the deeper core level issues of who we are, again, almost like your genetic makeup, because we're bringing that along into, say, a Joe Dispenza's concept. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
trying to enhance it. But what if we were a clear vessel? What if we were a clean slate, and then we learn Joe Dispenza's concepts? You would accelerate more. You're not carrying the baggage of, your health issues, or your burdens, or your mental state, and so on, that you inherited, again, from your parents.
Yeah. But
You're a
also
clearer vessel.
imprints that are from your past lives too, right? So
Yeah.
what you did in a past
Yes.
life that was unresolved, you carry over into a future life, and you might have had a traumatic death. And let's say you got decapitated and you got
Hmm.
a lifetime of neck pain and you have no idea
Hmm.
why, but you didn't
Yeah.
resolve anything from that past life. And maybe you had a lot of karmic baggage, as you say, or debt.
You
And
did. Yes.
yeah,
Can I share a story with you? This
I
is
would
how
love
so
that. Yeah.
extreme it gets past life. So there's a woman, and I do a lot of Zoom sessions, or just over the phone, and I'm picking her up. I'm picking up on her, and I could tell you a ton of stories. But this one is really, really interesting. Is that I tap into her, and she's going, yeah, I've gone to doctors and so on like that, and I just start analyzing or scanning her, and I go, and it's very different than psychic abilities and so on, by the way. So I go, God, it's like when I see you, it's like you're dead inside, you know and I don't know what's going on, but there's like all sorts of like organ failure, or weak organs and all. It's like, but when I see you, it's like you're gray, your organs are gray. It's like, yeah, well, I had a surgery, some stomach surgery, and it's like th- the organs, and that's what they were concerned about. It wasn't like pink, like the pretty color, of an internal organ. It wasn't like that. It's like literally gray, and they were thinking it's oxygen levels and all that stuff. And I go, well, I'm not a doctor or anything, but that's what I'm seeing. And I continue to see her, and it's, we got, these are like 10-minute sessions, and where we can do a lot in 10 minutes, because it's not about psychology, it's about changing your frequency. And I go, is your shoulders really square? It's like, yeah, my shoulders are really square, and it's like, it seems like, your there's things coming off your nails, underneath your fingernails, and it's like, yeah, we can't figure it out. It's like, can't calcium or potassium, whatever, it secretes out from underneath your fingernails. So it's getting freakier and freakier for me, and I'm going, does your hair fall out? It's like, yeah, my hair falls out. So, and then it's like a flashback came for me, and then this is where she released it, and I helped her release it. It's like, do you ever feel like you're dying or you're buried alive? And she goes, yeah, I have dreams about that all the time. So it was a past life scenario that had, say, seeped into her current life. That door wasn't, say, completely closed, or if you want to call it that accounting year, didn't completely finalize. And she was running from her past life. And
Was
it's
she
like you were
actually
buried
buried
alive.
alive in a past life?
Yes, back in the day, because
Yeah,
in
that's what I'm getting to.
well, yeah, back in the day, she was literally buried alive, and she was remembering those last moments of death for her, where she was like
Right, right.
scraping the coffin, and this is where she was really recreating it. So, the slivers from her
Yeah.
fingernails,
You know the
scraping it.
term
So,
the term dead ringer actually comes from people accidentally getting buried alive,
oh,
and they would put a bell attached to a string so that the person in the
oh,
coffin, if
wow.
they were alive, they could
Yes.
pull the string, ring the bell, and they'd dig them up. Dead ringer.
Isn't that sad? It
Yeah.
became so prevalent that now what they do. So I wonder how many people are really dead when they get buried. Now they take your blood away. They yeah. So they make sure that you're dead when you're dead. But yeah, back in the
Yep.
day there was a lot of people. So she was literally releasing, because the last moments of death get stuck in you as you transition. And if you're not awakened enough, what'll happen is that you'll re-render that, or you'll create it into your next life, and then you'll try to have resolve a lot of you'll try to resolve past life issues in this life, but it's really hard to do that because it's a past life issue.
Right. And you
So
don't have the
that's the key.
memories of it. You get the
Yeah, you don't have the
spiritual
memories.
amnesia. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can't really delete it, because the actual program is not there for you. The rendering of it is. And then so
Hmm.
you can release that. You can go back in time, like we were talking about, time and space. You can go back and release that moment, and then it releases your life here. This is also where people have gotten stabbed, and all those things, and they have still wounds and so on from it. Those wounds like start to heal once you like let go of those past life issues. I don't know why we're talking about past lives, but I think a lot of your audience would really
Well,
benefit from that.
yeah, yeah. It's fast. All this is so fascinating. I'm actually reading or
Yeah.
listening to an audiobook right now called Destiny of Souls. And that
Okay.
one is about past life, a past life regression
Hmm.
hypnotherapist.
Okay.
He would go through these patients' past life memories, and then he started to really get intrigued by their
Yep.
between life
Yes.
memories, and so he would
Hmm.
delve into there, and then he became a specialist in
Mm.
the between lifetime
Hmm.
time, and then he started asking all sorts of questions. So he's got several books on this topic, and one
Hmm.
of them is called Destiny of Souls, and it's
Mm.
yeah, fascinating stuff. Um, there's something I want to pick back up on that you were talking
Absolutely.
about. So you picked up on her energy
Yes.
and her the grayness of her
Hmm.
energy,
Right.
and you said this is different from psychic abilities. Can you
Yes.
differentiate psychic abilities from what the gifts are that you have? And are your gifts or abilities unique, or have you heard of other people having these abilities as well that you have?
Um, well, at the level that I'm at, I haven't heard of other people. There might be somebody out there, but I do train people to have these abilities. So we all have this potential, by the way. And
Mm.
people have transformed. People are actually are practicing XI in their modalities. Energy medicine, psychology. A lot of psychologists come to. Also, a lot. It's interesting. There's a lot of surgeons that come see me because they get more intuitive on, say, what's going on, which is really cool. There's business
Yeah.
people that do it as well. But so yes, it's trainable. So it's not psychic abilities, because psychic abilities uses your five senses to, say, understand information, or even, say, channeling. Channeling is where you're using, say, another resource that you're logging into, right? Say, like, do you remember John of God? Right?
Hmm.
John of God, right? He used to say, "Hey, I channel dead doctors." Basically, that's what he would say. And unfortunately, one of those, and this is what's wrong with channeling. Unfortunately, when you channel somebody, you start to channel their personalities as well. So when, say, a certain doctor that he would channel that abused women back in the day, he would start abusing his clients as well, and that's where he got into trouble. So anyway, so I don't channel the five senses. This is more of a knowing. So this is going back to, again, the framework, or the blockchain, or if you want to, you get into the matrix where you're actually accessing the higher version of who you are. Okay, so
Yeah.
at the higher
By the way,
version,
I just want to go back to the real quick. I just want to say
yeah,
about
no
John
worries.
of God.
Mhm.
What I receive about him is that he
Mhm.
was framed.
I could see that. He was framed, but I could also see that he would literally channel some other people. A lot of people do that, by the way. When
Yeah.
they're channeling somebody, they start
Hmm.
morphing into that personality as well. So,
Hmm.
is he framed?
Yeah.
It's
You can
probably
channel your higher self too, right? Like
you can
Edgar
channel your
Casey.
higher self. Yep. Edgar Casey. Yeah, he channeled his higher self. Uh, Tapping into him, he channeled his higher self, but it was out of time, or another reality. So he was looking at his higher self from another version of himself, looking at the
Hmm.
higher self, and that's where he got kind of distorted, or started to get abused by his abilities. So they weren't like a pure state. That's why, but they were.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to
Hmm.
you? So
A little
so
bit, like not quite, but
Okay. So when you're channeling your higher self, you actually want to expand into your higher self. Or actually what we do is like allow your higher self to come into you, and then your physical state expands. So
okay.
Edward Casey and most people who channel, they go outside of themselves to channel. So your physical form is here. And again, it's all about space time. Your physical form is here. You're like connecting out here. And that time
Yeah.
distortion messes you up. That's the key. It could be a benevolent
Right. Right.
being, or it could be, say, a great sage that you channel, or not so great. But the key is that time distortion is what, say, distorts you or disorients you. Or this is where people get diseased as they channel, or they start. There's a great individual, I think he wrote a diet book or cleansing book. He works on people, and then he can't see. I think he did the salary juicing deal.
Are
So
you talking about medical medium?
yeah, I think the medical
Anthony William?
yeah, Anthony Williams. So again,
Yeah.
great being, benevolent, but when he reads people or helps people, he channels maybe a higher version or a benevolent, say, presence. And then what happens is, like, he escapes his body, physical body here. He goes there. And then as he goes on, and again, it's his own words, it takes him, a couple days or maybe weeks now to start coming back. And he has time, he has issues like seeing, because he's out here rather than here. So
Yeah.
that's the difference. Basically what I've done is, like, I've invited my inner self, my higher self, in within me, again, integrated. You're that oneness, and then you expand into those realities where I can tap into somebody and just analyze them or read them. So that's where I
Hmm.
get my information. So it's not
That's
channeled to
cool.
me, and it's really, it's accurate. So if I'm having a bad day, say, you get into an argument with somebody, psychic abilities or psychics, they would have a distorted version of it, because now that filter of, say, whatever that they went through with their spouse is filtering through. Or again, if they're ill, they're going to see illness through you, because they'll have to read. They're stepping outside of themselves to read, but then there's all these filters in between what they're reading and you. Does that make
Yeah.
sense
So
to you?
it does, and that relates
Yeah.
also to something I've not long
Mhm.
ago come to understand, which is that when you lower your vibration because you get in a fight with your spouse or whatever it
Yep.
is,
Yep.
then you tune in to radio stations, the thoughts that are, these are not your thoughts. Most thoughts are not your
Yep.
thoughts. And
Absolutely.
when you are at this lower vibration, you're tuning into destructive thoughts or intrusive thoughts, or
Yep.
at least disempowering or not helpful thoughts,
Mhm.
and you tend to beat yourself up, or
Yes.
speak badly about the other person, blame them in your own mind. But these are
Right.
not your thoughts, and
They're
all you
not
have
your
to do
thoughts.
is just elevate your vibration, your
Yep.
beingness, and then you'll start tuning into higher quality radio stations.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is, yeah, that is absolutely accurate. And like at the lower frequencies, Steve, there's just so much, so much, static, because there's so many frequencies that are getting sent out by people. There's not a lot of high frequency people, so it's like, gosh, this is very congested. So a simple way to protect yourself, so to speak, because a lot of people stay at the same level of consciousness. Again, there's a lot of people there, a lot of frequencies, and they're all, I would say all, but a lot of them are messed up. So you're picking all that stuff up. It's like, why don't you go to a higher airspace where there's less traffic? Or even better
Right.
yet, go to even higher airspace. And then you can actually look down, and observe, not like looking down on people, but just looking down on, say, the consciousness. And you can see those individuals, say, frequencies that they're sending out. And then this is where you can, read people really well. But then
Yeah.
you can
You get
say,
a
it's
better
like, gosh,
perspective. And by
absolutely.
sticking your head up above the clouds, because you're
Yep,
in a higher vibration, those other people who are already there too, they notice you. And then all these chance occurrences where they happen to reach out to you out of the blue. It's like,
absolutely.
wow, I haven't spoken to you in
Yep.
10 years. What
Yes.
inspired you to contact me? And like, well, I don't know. It just came to my mind. And it's like, we
Yeah.
just popped
Yeah.
our heads above the clouds. Yeah.
Yeah, you connect with higher level people. You don't have to worry about getting all that stuff on you like a lot of people are empaths, right? Because
Mm,
you just don't
right.
know. You don't have to protect yourself, or anything like that. Because at the higher levels, one, to be at the higher level, you've learned how to, say, have a solid identity of who you are, so you're not absorbing other people. Although you can learn from other people, you don't naturally absorb other people's garbage, and you can only
Hmm.
absorb what you want from that person, what's going to benefit you to ascend higher. But at that higher level, again, there's just less traffic, so it's a lot easier for you to navigate, what's really out there and come into your power. So,
Yeah,
good
and when
point.
you get when somebody or something tries to infiltrate your field,
Hmm.
if you're at that higher level and you're just this being of bright, uh, beautiful light,
Hmm.
it they they can't even touch you. It's
They can't
like,
even
then
touch you.
so the
Right.
thoughts too, thought forms that are not helpful and are negative, they can just bounce off of you, and you can kind of have it programmed so that when they try and infiltrate your field, they get sent immediately to the creator, to Ein Sof, to the
Yes.
infinite light.
Yes. Yeah. So I look at it as you're boosting your immune system, your spiritual immune system at the lower
Mm,
levels. You're being bombarded by a lot of things. At the higher levels, you might still be, say, bombarded because you're still here in the physical space, or, space zero, or, consciousness zero, or, density, is created. So, but the key is that since your immune system is here, you're running at a high level immune system, because you've learned how to, boost your immune system, get stronger, healthier, spiritually, physically, emotionally, and all that. You're rendering yourself here, but you're experiencing life here. So there's not a disconnect, which is really important.
mm,
But as you say, render yourself at this, at the base level where you should be, because it's physical form. It's the only place where you can have, say, a physical experience, by the way. And that's why it's
yeah,
so precious here. You're not entangled with all the patterns that people are actively running. Again, you create that shield, but when you're creating that shield, or when you're resonating at a high level, other people pick up on it and they go, wow, I can resonate at that higher level. And this is where you
yeah,
literally start to help transform humanity. It's like, wow, he's real, that person, how do they do that? It's like, oh, wait, I remember that I can create myself up here as well. So you help people remember who they actually are, who they really are.
yeah. It's like you're starting a chain reaction,
Yep.
and your awakening is contagious.
Yes. Yep. When you're really awakening your success patterns, when you're creating at a success level here, say that you come into a lot of abundance, a lot of money, and so on, like that. Because of your hard work, or even if you're at a certain level, you win the lottery, right? You expand. because that is a representation at the level that you're at. So success is very, very different for you as well. At the lower levels, success is redefined. Success is defined as the more money I have, or the more, abundance, which is just an accumulation of physical goods that I have. That means the more I'm valued. But then over
Mm.
time, what will happen is that success is a magnifier, because it's
Mm-hmm.
it's ill defined at the lower levels. People who become really, really successful, they start to see that the more they have, the less value they actually have. And this is where
So
those
it
individual.
amplifies or magnifies who they already are.
Yeah.
One thing I've learned about in Kabbalah is
Hmm.
that there's this concept called bread of shame, where
Hmm.
if somebody didn't earn the thing that they received, then it
Yep.
comes with side effects. So winning the
Yes.
lottery often leaves the person worse off than
Yes.
they were before they won that lottery,
Yes.
because they didn't earn it. Whereas if somebody worked hard, they dug ditches and washed
Hmm.
cars or whatever, and then they were able to buy that car instead of
Hmm.
getting it for free as a just because they turned 16, and their
Hmm.
parents like to spoil the person. This earning of what you receive is crucially important, and I think that's related to what you were just describing.
It is, and a lot of people, would equate that to, just like you said, really working hard, sacrificing, and so on like that. But what you're earning is like frequency credits, or spiritual credits, if you want to,
Yeah.
if you want to get more precise. So what you're doing is like, you're not thinking that you're a non-deserving individual here. What you're doing is like, you're earning credits to elevate yourself at a higher level. At this higher level, whatever, say, abundance that is yours or should be yours, because again, at the higher level, you're always a reflection of who you think you are. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense to you? So
Yeah.
at the lower level, say you've made $1 million, but again, and it's an escape. You think your $1 million is going to expand you, or create your a higher self-worth for you, but it doesn't. And this is where people commit suicide and so on, because they see how little they are compared to what they've
Mm-hmm.
actually earned. So again, that shame feeling, so shameful that they just disconnect. And that's why a lot of entertainers disconnect, or a lot of people who become massively successful disconnect. This is where, like you said, those people who win the lottery, really, and then their programming can't stand being at that level, because they don't know how to handle money, or they don't know how to handle their self-worth, and they have to lose it and get worse. So what we're saying is like, hey, wait, elevate yourself to a higher level, and then you'll naturally gravitate, money will naturally gravitate towards you. And that's that worth that you have. So worth becomes money becomes a reflection of who you really are, or success, or happiness, or health, or youthfulness, or whatever else becomes a reflection of who you are up here. Down here, it
Yeah.
becomes a facade of who you are. And that's the difference
Mm.
between, having a lot of money and like owning it, versus having a lot of money and faking it,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
really redefines, say, what abundance is for us all.
Are you familiar with the book Power versus Force by Richard
Uh,
Dawkins?
yeah, I did. Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I did a
So he
seminar
talks
on that.
about the different levels,
Hmm.
the numbers,
Yes.
up to a thousand, I think.
Yes.
So is that similar to what you're describing of being at a higher level, higher vibration?
It is. It's at a
You're at
higher
a higher
level.
number.
It's a higher frequency. Absolutely. And the higher frequency that you are, and I did a seminar on that quite a while back. It's a fascinating book. Yes, it's very similar to that. I went into it a little deeper from
Hmm.
it as well. And we might revisit that, by the way. There's a lot of books that I'm going to revisit or review, like Think and Grow Rich. We're going to review
Hmm.
back that, and, do an XI version. Also,
Yeah.
Tony Robbins'
Outwitting the
book.
Devil. That's another good one by
What is it?
Napoleon Hill. Outwitting the Devil. It
I,
didn't get released until after Napoleon Hill passed. So Think and
oh,
Grow Rich was published in his lifetime, but then this
yeah.
manuscript was too controversial. Uh, he would have gotten too much heat, according to his wife or widow.
Hmm.
Uh, it wasn't worth the risk of being targeted by talking about these esoteric concepts. So that book was not released for, I don't know, 80 years or some really
Okay.
long period of time. Yeah,
Okay.
so I would check that one out too.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Actually, um, I probably not as bad, but I actually I did a podcast. It's a lecture series. It was a podcast, and we got that flack as well. It's got nothing to do, but it was called The Science of Satan, and how we
Mm.
render or manifest Satan in this reality, which isn't true. Literally, it's a physical manifestation that we've all rendered, creating, say, a version of Satan that's not true, that destroys us. Does that make sense? It's our
Mm.
inner weaknesses and so on.
Yeah. So in
It
fact, in Kabbalah, they refer to him as the opponent,
Okay.
and also that he is a positive angel because he gives us something to push against, something to contrast with, so
Mhm.
we can work to elevate our consciousness even better.
Yes. No matter in what religion or spirituality, Satan was the closest thing next to God, right? So it's like, if you're the closest thing next to God at that, say, benevolence level, you're pretty high up. It's pretty hard for you to, say, drop down, because you wouldn't have human emotions. You wouldn't have, again, jealousy or anything like that, human rendition of that. So it's pretty hard to, again, drop down like that. So I think what it's about, again, in the science of Satan, is there to explain it at a deeper level. But it's like it's like a control feature that humans have. We need to control in this reality. There's control, there's sacrifice, and then there's lack. Those three ingredients are in everything that we control. So that distorted version of Satan would be created in the time of space, and in the realm of space and time. Those things don't exist, say, above, in the no time zone or the timeless zone, because you
Mm.
can't. There's just pure benevolence there. There's not two
Right.
forces or anything like that. So at the lower levels,
Right, right. So
yeah,
duality doesn't really exist. It's all an illusion. All there is
yes,
love. Anything less than love is an illusion.
yes,
And
yes.
yeah, so evil doesn't really exist. It exists in the way that we create it or co-create it by
Mhm.
our believing in it, but we stop believing in it and it goes away.
That goes into observing the observer. So if you're within, say, the paradigm that you're creating, evil would have to exist, because it would have to be, like you said in Kabbalah, it's the pushing force. It's a reflection of, like, where you are in comparison to where you are. Does that make sense? You would never understand light if there was no darkness. You would never understand,
Right.
say,
Or
love if there
appreciate
was
it.
no hate, or appreciate, or anything, right? So that's why we need it. And then over time, we've created, the devil idea and concepts like that, because we couldn't overcome, you we couldn't reference, or we couldn't overcome, because it's, darkness has a draw, or, say, distortions have a more of a draw than, say, the light or the goodness. There's a reason for that, by the way.
Mm.
But if we ascend, or if we render ourselves, or if we experience ourselves out of this physical plane, we experience ourselves here and know that this is a rendering here. We don't need, say, reference points like good, bad, dark, light. We understand that those are tools for us to render our space here, but we don't use it as, say, something to go, something to identify with, because that's why we identify. I'm good, they're bad. Does that make sense? It justifies who we are. But like I said, if you go past the physical space and time model, you go here and you render and know that this is a rendering. You don't use that as a reflection of who you are, because you know who you are at a higher level, and there's no need, for example, for a devil icon. So the
Mhm.
devil does not exist past time and space. It's just pure
Yeah. Because
benevolence.
like you said earlier, this is a simulation, or these, you use the term simulation,
Yes,
and
it is a
that's
simulation.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Can
it's
I
it's
just talk
it's
about that, and
powerful,
just
and it's Oh, please. I want
Yeah,
to also be respectful of your time. If you have to
yeah.
go, we can wrap up. But if you
Yeah,
want to
just
keep
this.
going, I'd love to.
Yeah, this last point is really cool. So the simulation. So again, it's where you create yourself in the fourth dimension is how you change yourself. So if you're, and what most people do is like they keep themselves in the same environment. Okay, like say you're in a house that has no plumbing, no heating, or it's dilapidated because you've inherited it from your original ancestors, right? You're just another rendition within that house, literally, right? And that's why you have the same issues, same diseases. And what you're doing is like you're improving, you're self-improving. It's like, gosh, I got to fix the heater now. But the thing is, gosh, hundreds of generations old, there is no heater. So, or electricity and all that. And that's what most people do. They try to fix the rendering that they've created. Okay? But over here, there's another simulation of yourself. And this is where you're talking, there's millions of different scenarios of you, but there's only one scenario that's alive. There's different possibilities or millions of possibilities that you could run into, but most people don't understand it. Or there's not a million universes that are active right now. There's a possibility of you being active right now. You are creating, say, that force that, say, starts or turns that, say, universe on. So you're over here, you're in this simulation. You try psychology, you try whatever, health foods, you try, I don't know, different people, to be a better version, but you're still in that same house. You're not going to enjoy it. So, it's like, why not go, hey, you know what? Let's build another version here, or let's find another version. Again, literally like a brand new house for you to exist in. And this is where you go, massive changes can happen in literally like 18 days, like we do in the 18-day hyper meditation, where you jump from this space to into your brand new home, updated technology, updated electrical, plumbing, and all that. And this is where your life massively transforms and you can let go of these old patterns completely, even at a genetic makeup. So it's literally about, say, simulations of where you create yourself versus, psychology or belief systems or anything like that.
Hmm. And this
It's really a cool
hypermeditation program,
concept.
is this done remotely, like a virtual, or is it done in an
Yes, it's
event
on
center or
Zoom.
something?
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
Zoom. We connect with I don't know, 800 to 1,000 people. I think every other month. It became so powerful that we did it every other month. People needed to de-stress or re-energize themselves before they go. So the next one is more in May, and it's really fantastic. You literally can say transform ourselves or yourself in that short period of time. And as you say, escape time and space, you don't need time to heal or shift. You can literally change the channel, which is, again, great technologies.
Yeah, amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I know we're wrapping up here, but I'm
Mhm.
curious if there was anything that you spotted about me and my energy. Do you just automatically sense people when you are,
Yeah,
let's say, getting interviewed or you're in a
I do.
conversation with somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did
Yeah,
you get
and that's
about
why
me?
I was picking up, the alchemist type scenarios, and then the other thing,
Hmm.
past lives and all that. Yeah, and it just comes natural for me. But yeah, I kind of dim it down. But yeah, I can scan you if you don't mind. That's cool, and you can
Oh, sure.
keep it off
Yeah,
or
yeah,
on. Your podcast. It's all up to you. Sure.
yeah, yeah.
So there's bits and pieces of you all over the place, if that makes sense to you.
Hmm.
So basically, that means is that you have a lot of teachings in you, and and but we need to, say, come into, say, an agreement or a oneness with all those teachings. Does that make sense to you? There's
Yes,
aspects of
yes.
you, like in your 20s. There's a segment. I want to say between 18 to 24. There's a part, I don't know if you left home or you found yourself or you explored yourself. I want to say 18 to 24. That segment
Hmm.
of you is part of you, but it's like a module that you placed in you. It's not, it hasn't, say, merged in you. Does that make sense
Hmm.
to you?
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
I got married at 19. I
oh,
was a
okay.
foster child in my teenage years, so I wanted
Ah,
to, you know, get a stable family
got
and
it.
all that as quickly as I possibly could.
Okay. So that part of you, so just think of it. You're an identity of a foster child here. Okay. And then what happened is again, you left. And that's what I'm seeing. So what happens is like, hey, you know what? I want to create a scenario of I want to have a happy family. I want to have a close bond and all that stuff. A happy family scenario, right? So you took that module here and then you placed it here, but it didn't say grow into you. It's just it's a module in you. Does that make sense? Is that how that
Hmm.
works?
Okay.
It didn't become you, although you represent it. And quickly, because you're so easy to literally rewire, let's just help you with that, and you'll see the difference,
Okay.
Stephen.
All right.
You
Cool.
literally go, you look at your spouse or your kids, and you'll go, wow, okay. You'll really like feel them, so to speak. You
Mm.
really like get really integrated. Say, well, when you were younger, I want to say 10 or 11, what happened there? And I'll tell you what I see, and maybe you can relate it to experience. When you were around 10 or
Okay.
11, it's almost like you saw things happening outside of you, but you could not interact with them from that scenario. You didn't have a chance, you didn't have a choice, or you couldn't for some reason. So you saw the possibilities out there, and it's like, when I'm X, then I'm going to be out there. And this is where you get excited about life. It's like, I can't wait till the day that I'm out there and actually say in life and experiencing life. Just much like a little kid that goes, yeah, when I get older, I'm going to go buy that race car. Does that make sense? So that sense of
Mm.
excitement is
Yeah.
there.
So what happened is, for my fifth and sixth grade, I lived with my aunt.
Okay.
My grandmother had passed
Okay.
in the spring of my fourth grade, and
Mhm.
so my grandfather couldn't. He didn't want to keep me, so I
Oh,
went to live with my aunt. So we
got
lived in Connecticut for a year, and then Florida for a year, and then she got a divorce and
got it.
took me back to Toledo to live
Okay,
with my grandfather at that point.
got it. So in that, okay, so that I was seeing. You said you were a foster child, so I didn't know that person. So
Yeah,
around
so
like,
that was before
yeah, so
being a
around
foster child. It was, yeah, 13 or 14. I
14.
became a foster child.
Yeah, I'm seeing like 13, 14. It's like a heavy hand on you that kind of split, so to speak. So
Mm,
parts of you literally stayed with the family. Parts of you left, being a foster child. Does that make sense? How that
mm,
work?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And then let's go back. Um,
This is amazing, by the
yeah,
way.
take a breath in and just notice your spine. Actually, your spine, and then just right in front of your spine. It's kind of
Okay.
strange, and I'll explain that because it's like Ma said, "Hey, my spine is strange." I'm not saying your spine is strange, but there's your spine here, and then I see another version of you here. So there's almost like two spines that I see in you. That makes sense to you.
Wow.
So,
Hmm.
who is that? What is that? Um, oh, I get it. Um, um, so what happened to 4, 5, 6? I get patterns or algorithms on how it had affected you rather than, the actual experience. Sometimes I get the actual experience, but 4, 5, 6 was a separation of sorts for you, from what I'm seeing.
So I was raised mostly by my grandparents
Okay.
up until fourth grade,
Okay.
and I had some interaction with my mom in the earlier years, less
Mm-hmm.
so as I grew older.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, until then, my grandmother passed, and
Okay.
things shifted around. But four,
Got it.
five, six, I I think maybe what happened around there was my father, who was already out of my life for the most part,
Yeah.
and
Which is a good
left
thing, by the way,
my mother.
Stephen. No
Yeah,
offense,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's a good thing.
yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Yep.
Yep, I get it.
Yeah.
So
Um,
he left the the area and moved to California,
okay.
and um, yeah, I probably had less interactions with my mother and father
So
that kind of point.
yeah. So what I'm seeing is there's a destabilization in you. So
Mm.
now I understand why, because again, father mother icon. That makes sense for you. And
Mm-hmm.
then your
Yeah.
mom gets frazzled or just like starts to break down, and then you try to say support her, but you're so young. It's like, how the hell do I support a grown woman type frequency? And then you
Yeah.
create a separation. So or basically you either take on, because you're a loving guy, you take on, say, it's like it's like you see this heavy burden on your mom. It's like, shit, I can't lift that thing, but I'm gonna try. That kind of pattern
Yeah.
for
And
you.
my
And you
grandfather
just,
was so abusive to her, and it just
yeah,
was hard to take. The
yeah,
the name calling and everything. It was bad.
you would absorb that. You would have absorbed that. So
Mm.
let's help you. And again, I'll just help you release all that if you don't mind. Um,
Well, please.
and then going back in your birth, that's where I see the double spine. There is a couple scenarios. One, your mom might have lost a kid,
Mm.
um, or had an abortion. However, she lost it. It doesn't matter. One, two, three. One, two, three. She might have lost one, two, three kids, from what I'm seeing. Sometimes,
Wow.
however you see it, um, um, that spirit, say, hangs out with you, or there's a, say, imprint of that loss of a child within her memory, and then you come in and then it imprints two of you. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a
Yeah. I
double
just
I.
learned about full
Go ahead.
court of atonement. Is something from Amy Jo.
Okay.
Uh, Amy Jo. I forget her last name, but anyways, there was something I was just reading about the absorbed twin from
That's you.
gestation. Yeah.
That's why
So
you're
I was
probably
wondering,
reading
why
it.
am I reading this?
That's why.
Fascinating.
Yep. So
Right.
that's the bigger key. So again, there's, you read about this stuff, but XI is literally about, okay, let's do something about it. Let's actually say re. It's not recreating time and space, because that's written in the sand. You can't change what's written in the sand. But take a breath in, buddy, and just notice your spine, especially your lower half. What'll happen? What happens is that, again, you can't recreate what happened, but you can render the meaning of what happened to you, right? As a higher
Mm.
version, it's like, oh, that's happened to me. Let's take the benefit out of that. So let's help you release one, that other version or that other identity. And this is where you might experience in your youthful days is like two versions of you. Do I want to go, is this the Stephen that I want, or is this the Stephen that I want? That makes sense to you?
Mm.
There's almost like, which way do I
Yeah.
go? I have two opportunities. So this is why, because you have two renderings of you. And by the way, it's space time. So it kind of disorients you, because again, you're here, there's another version of you here. Okay. And as of late, by the way, and this is what's important, that version of you, you're trying to push out. And this is why you're doing all that research on yourself. You're trying to push out that other identity that shouldn't be there anyway. But it's a nice identity. You just need to say, hold the pieces of that identity that you want, and then let go of that version that you're creating, or the double,
Mhm.
say, bone structure. And this is, I'm not a doctor or anything, Stephen, but um, this is you. When I see you have a softer bone structure, um,
Hmm.
from what I'm seeing, your bones are softer or more flexible, as you would. So it didn't completely turn into an adult type bone structure. Plus,
Really? Hmm.
since you took on, say, the worries of your mom, you have a very sensitive feel to you as well. You see things from, again, your mom's frequencies. Does that make sense? So even women, you see it from their perspective, yes, which makes you very sensitive. But then also, it's your mom's perspective, which isn't, say, the
Hmm.
best version of female. So you have to weed. You're always weeding that out, if that makes sense. Or you're like taking in. This is where you would observe something, and then you consciously think about it, and you go, okay, this is true. This is true. This is true. This is not true. Let's move that out. So you're conscious of how you do that. Does that make sense how you do that? You observe what you're observing and then you filter it out. That's why, because you're starting to see your mom's filter that's, that's trying to
Hmm.
control you. Was there alcohol, by the way? Um, I see
My
alcohol.
foster father was an alcoholic.
Got it. Okay.
My Yeah, that was the only exposure I had to alcoholism.
Yeah.
He died from it.
I just see that wrapped around you. It's not part of you, which is good. But it's still, you would be that person that would um, um, not enable, but support, say, people in that sense. Or again,
Mm.
have situations where you would have, say a problem person because of alcohol or an addiction or um, mental instability, if that makes sense to you. Um, take
Yep.
a breath in again, buddy. So what I'm doing for you is literally, well, a lot of things. Disconnecting you from, say, the losses of your mom, and then while she was pregnant with you, it's almost like towards the end, the last 2 months or so, Stephen, she was like, God, I don't know if I should have this baby or not. She had this deal, and then it kind of messed you up as well. Well, that's impacting you as well. So I'm just seeing the
Hmm.
last 2 months. Got it. Okay. So again, I don't see, the exact scenario, but how it impacts your algorithms or your patterns that you see life through now. So let's release that while we're at it. Sounds good?
Okay, good. I love it.
Um, yes. And for you, um, you change so much, you just like will shift. It's like, whoa, I'm totally different. Or it seems like you might just break down. So if you break down, just really get into it, allow yourself to break down. And then, like, the next day, it's like, whoa, I'm a different version of myself, which is really cool because you change really fast because of all the studying that you've done. Now we're taking all those things that you studied and actually putting it into, say, motion for you. Okay. So it's not a
Yeah.
psychological thing, it literally is in motion. There's a lot of great knowledge, but how do we integrate that knowledge within ourselves? Take a
Yeah.
breath in again.
That was another lesson from my guides was like the knowledge doesn't count unless you apply it. Like knowledge for knowledge, learning for learning's sake does not
Yep.
change the
Yep.
world. Like
Yes.
we're in a world of action, so
Yes.
get
So
to it.
yeah, when you become the knowledge, that's what I was saying. When you become the knowledge, you resonate that knowledge out, and that's where people
Mm,
pick up on it. And whether they're ready for that knowledge or not, it doesn't matter because it's higher level knowledge. And you go, oh shit, I remember that knowledge because it's all within us. So that's yeah. So now we're applying that knowledge. Notice your neck, by the way. Uh,
mm-hmm.
let's release. Um,
Yeah, I got a lot of tension in my neck.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
tension in my neck and shoulders.
Yeah,
Yeah.
up into the head area. And it comes from birthing, by the way, and that double spine that I see. So that
Yeah.
so they're
By the way,
gone.
it was a very long, arduous childbirth for my mom.
Yeah.
Very, very long.
It seems like they torqued you to pull you out, which
Mm,
messed up your
okay.
neck. For some reason, it's like they didn't just pull you straight down. They literally like pulled your head this way.
Mm,
I don't know, to move your shoulders whatever, but it just messed your neck because that's a lot of torque. And that's, again, those memories are in you as well, especially when you're coming into space time. It's like, God, this is your first introduction into space time. It's like, whoa, this doesn't feel that great. Um, so let's help you release kind of those memories or those patterns because that's kind of locked
mm-hmm.
your bone structure where you're still rendering from again a younger version of self. Those memories are still imprinted in your bones. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um,
Yep.
and I have to, what I do is I focus here. I call it spatial referencing, where I focus in on a spot. So, I'm not looking at you. I stay here and then I expand into your awareness. And then I can just like literally log into your computer and just see things the way you would see them or how you experience them. But I have actually admin level access. Um,
I like
so
it. Super user.
I go to a deeper level, and it's like, oh, this is what's going on with Stephen, and just like you rewrite, not what happened, but the meaning of what happened. So that's all, at a
Yeah.
deeper level. Take a breath
Yeah.
in again,
Tony
buddy.
Robbins says we are meaning makers.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. One near death experience. So so what this will do is you'll start to feel an integration of self, because like you said, knowledge is here, knowledge is there, and experience is here. What you want and what you've created, say a family or knowledge and so on, again, they're modules of you, but you didn't say combine or interact at a cellular level for you. And now
Mm.
that process is going to start to happen for you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then you'll start
That's
to
awesome.
like integrate, and you'll start to feel like really literally one. You might even like kind of vibrate, kind of like in and out type feel. Wow, it's really cool
Mm.
for you, buddy. And again, you've got so much knowledge. Now you're going to access that knowledge and transform and shift. Yeah, it's really cool. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for the first session. This is like decades and decades of therapy, and literally, I don't know how long, like 5-10 minutes. And that's why people can change so fast. Because I get to the core level. I
Amazing.
was like, this is what's going, this is what's going on, this is what's going on, rather than you going, well, I'm not having a great time, or I can't do this, or I'm sick all the time. It's like, hey, let's go fix this, 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 this. People don't even recognize that, on what's really going
Mm.
on. So, yeah, let me know how you feel, afterwards.
Mm.
Give it 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
like 3-4 days, and you'll see
Okay.
that deeper integration for you. Okay, it's really cool.
Amazing.
Good stuff, buddy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you. So again, if our listener or viewer wants to work with you, learn
Hmm.
the XI modality or system, and just follow you and your wisdom on social media and all that, what are
Yeah.
the various places for them to go to?
Yeah, you can look at Mas_Sajady. That's MAS, and then SAJADY. Instagram, Facebook. You can look at that. YouTube is really cool. If you go to massajady.live, again, MASSAJADY.live, that's my YouTube channel. And there's so many free content there for you guys. It's half-hour clips. It's on live. It's called the uh, Moss on Sundays. Moss on Sundays. It's live for you. This is where you get a chance where I can just analyze all of you, uh, not like one on one, but I analyze you. But I tell you the underlying reasons on why life happens or world situations happen, and then help us come up to a higher level of consciousness. So that's there. The Exponential Podcast, XI Podcast. That's on YouTube and other podcast platforms. Masajadi.com. Look at the 18 days when you go to masajadi.com. It's really a great place to start. And that'll
Mm-hmm.
help you say get your feet wet and start helping you reprogram yourself, just like I helped you, Stephen. And
Yeah.
those people who
Yeah.
are listening, by the way, you might start to feel a change. Even I know this is a recording, but even on the recording, you'll start to awaken as well. And that's how, again, powerful, we all are. Okay, so.
Yeah, I learned that recently from getting some healings from
Mhm.
Rob Wergen, and
Okay.
he was bringing in like Melchizedek and
Hmm.
Zoser and Master Zoser and so forth. And if I re-listened to it, they would show up and do the healing on me again as if
Yep.
it were live.
Yep.
That was mind blowing.
Yeah, isn't it
Yeah.
cool? Yeah, and that's why I do a lot of live things because I get the frequencies of the individuals. I pull them in. But yeah, listening to the recordings or again even the show, you'll actually your listeners will start to go, oh wow, that really changed me, or wow, and it's not just a conscious like opening; it's literally a frequency opening for you. So it's really cool to see,
Mm.
and that's the new technologies that are coming in, and it blows the doors off of anything that we've experienced before. So it's a great time to be alive, guys. It's really
It
cool.
is. It is
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm certainly going to tune into your live stream. It's
Perfect.
Moss on Sunday. It's YouTube live at
Yep.
9:30 a.m. Central Time.
Central Time. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
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 Massajadi.live. So
I'll include all these links and social profiles and all that in the show notes for this episode. So thank
perfect.
you, Mas. This was
Thank you.
fabulous, and thank you, listener, viewer. I'm really excited and just grateful for you to
Thank you so
be
much.
on this journey with me. Thank you,
Thank you
and
so
we'll
much,
catch you in the
Spencer.
next episode.
You take care. Bye bye.